A radioactive capsule the size of a 10-cent coin has been lost somewhere between the Pilbara mine and Perth in WA. According to state emergency officials, the capsule, usually used in mining, is believed to have fallen off a truck sometime after January 10. It sparked an emergency nationwide alert as authorities warned the public to steer clear of the tiny item. People are being warned of the object, which can cause serious skin burns or even acute radiation sickness.
It's around receiving 10 X-rays in an hour, just to put it in context. And 2 millisieverts is also the amount of radiation, natural radiation, we would receive in a year just by walking around.
Joining us live now for more on this is Associate Professor at Curtin University, Nigel Marks. Nigel Marks, thank you for your time this afternoon. How concerning is this?
It's not a major concern, but it really is a worry that the due diligence that should have been performed hasn't been carried out. These things are very small. It's very straightforward to keep them safe. So it's quite remarkable that somehow they managed to have it shake its way loose, and we have this small silver object somewhere on the very long highway that connects Perth inland up to the Pilbara region.
What are these radioactive capsules actually used for?
Oh, they're very common. They're used. They emit 2 types of radiation, so-called beta radiation and gamma radiation, which is the one that's really useful. And they're used in all sorts of places to measure levels and measure density of material in a slurry. They're used in universities and in hospitals. You can use them to kill creatures that you don't like. So they're very, very common. It's very straightforward to look after them. They should be very simple processes to make sure they don't go missing. So it's quite a mystery to me, and I'm sure many other people, how on earth, as it were, it fell off the back of a truck.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? And I suppose that's the real challenge. We don't know where it is. There's a big search. Are you confident it's going to be found?
I think it'll be a very good effort to find it. I have driven that particular road, and there's a lot of desert out there. The only things in favour of finding it is that it's silvery, and that if you have a Geiger counter and you're within a metre or 2 of it, it'll go click, 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 and you'll know you found it. But it's just such a long road, like it's more than 1,000 kilometres of basically nothing, and there's big trucks up there, and it could just easily be flung off into the bush or, under a bit of scrub, and it may never be found. They'll look obviously for it in the urban areas, in the suburbs of Perth and the handful of towns that are along that road, but gee, there's a lot of desert up there.
People are being urged to check their tyres. Is it likely it could be there?
It's possible. If it was in your tyres, it'd be very obvious. Like, it wouldn't look like a rock. The good thing is the government's put lots of pictures out so everyone knows what they're looking for. And if you did think it was that, someone would come along with a Geiger counter and you'd know in 10 seconds whether or not that's the capsule. So I guess that's probably the worst case scenario for the government, that some poor unfortunate person has got it in their truck or their 4-wheel drive. But, it's whenever you drive along a country road, rocks and things get flicked off everywhere. So I think it's more likely that it's sitting there by the side of the road doing its thing. But yeah, you certainly you don't want to dismiss that possibility. And I guess all you can do is educate the public.
What are the health risks if someone was to come into contact with it?
Well, you certainly wouldn't want to put it in your pocket, that's for sure. So our Chief Health Officer was talking about the amount of radiation that gets emitted by it. It's a very strange thing called a millisievert, which no one's ever heard of in the general public. But if you were holding this in your hand for an hour, you'd get your year's worth of natural radiation. So it's obviously much more radioactive than just everyday life. So it's not a good thing. But if you were just handling it for a brief period of time, for a couple of seconds, or if you're moving it from one place to another, then there wouldn't be any concern at all. But yeah, it wouldn't be good for a child to find it and put it on their desk. But I don't think that would happen because there's been so much public awareness.
Yeah. Do you think extra measures need to be taken to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Oh, I think they have to. Honestly, it's a crazy thing. Like, we have sources similar to that in our university, and it's very straightforward. You handle them with tongs and you put them in a lead-lined box and you have a padlock on it. Like, it's the kind of thing, if handled properly, you could have it in the passenger seat of your car and it'd be completely harmless. So I think the idea that it's in the back of a truck and gets shaken to bits and then somehow manages to fall out and onto the road, I think that's ridiculous. They'll have to do much better than that. They're very small things. It just needs a little bit of lead and one steel box, or maybe two if you want to be really paranoid. And then nothing should ever happen. So these things do happen around the world from time to time, and this is probably at the low end of the things that worry people. But it shouldn't happen, especially not it didn't. Not that Rio Tinto did it; it was a subcontractor of theirs. But it shouldn't happen.
Associate Professor Nigel Marks, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.